All right, I wanted to do one more example with you before we switch our focus to exponential and log functions. And so for the example, I'm looking at a quadratic, and it's opening down. It's been shifted up 4, opening down. So it looks something pretty much like that. And you should say that's not 1-to-1, right? That's not the context that we're talking about, because I'm about to ask for H inverse of something. But I want you to notice that I restricted the domain, and this is going to be a key idea with some things we do later on. I'm not letting you plug in anything bigger than 0. And so if you want to graph this function, you can do that. Let's actually sketch a nice picture of it. So it's going to look something like, well, we shifted it up 1, 2, 3, 4 here. And it's going to go through the 0 there. So we're 1, 2, 3, 4. So it's going to look something like that. And I'm restricting the domain. By the way, I'm not even including 0. So I got to put an open circle there. All right, so that's actually what my function looks like because of this domain restriction. And so I want us to realize that this function is now 1-to-1. And so let's also realize that, okay, the domain of the inverse function, H inverse, is equal to the range of h of x, which we know is, well, let's see, it's minus infinity all the way up to 4 on the y-axis. I don't actually include 4. We know that the range of the inverse function is equal to the domain of the regular function, h, which we decided was minus infinity to 0. So you can write those things down easy enough. I'd like us also to figure out h inverse of 3 without an actual formula. So what is h inverse of 3? I don't know what it is. I'm going to give it a name. I'm going to call it c. And I'm going to switch and say, well, h inverse sends 3 over to c only if h of c is 3. H sends c back to 3. H of c is what? 4 minus c squared equals 3. So what do I get here? I get 1 equals c squared. So c is plus or minus 1, right? But we restricted the domain to the negatives. And so you know that c has to be -1. Your c has to be in the domain. This must be in the domain of h. And so the point is h inverse of 3 is -1. All right, so there we go. That's one last example. And we are now ready to begin a brief review of exponential and log functions. So even though this video is super short, I think I'll go ahead and break it here. And we will look at those functions in the next one.